So let's pick up where that video left off, which was a wonderful thing to watch, but I want to bring it to life a little bit. So tell me about who's in the room and what they're accomplishing together.
Okay. So as the video talked about, Ujima is a multi-stakeholder, multiracial, multi-class initiative. So that means we have regular people. We have community members, we have small business owners, we have impact investors, we have philanthropic institutions, and those are all the people that are in the room. We have activists, we have grassroots organizers. And we have what we call assemblies that's been adapted from Cooperation Jackson's assembly practice, neighborhood and city assemblies. And we ask everyone who's in the room, name businesses that you love, name businesses that you think we need in our communities that we do not currently have, and name businesses you would like to replace. Just a little bit of additional detail. We have two broad tiers of members. So we have voting members and we have solidarity members. Voting members are people who live in Boston proper, who ideally identify as a person of color or working class, and solidarity members are people who live outside of Boston, or they don't identify as a person of color or as working class.
Or live in Boston.
Or live in Boston, exactly. And so that's important because, as I said, we have all of the different types of stakeholders. When it comes to the decision-making, we are clear. We want the decision-making to be held and led by Boston residents.
So you mentioned this, businesses we need, businesses we love, and businesses we want to replace. Mm-hmm. Can you say a little bit more about that and maybe give some examples?
Yeah, sure. So one example, we just accepted to the Ujima Good Business Alliance, the Bay State banner, which is Boston and Greater Boston's Black-owned newspaper. So first, as I stated earlier, they came to our attention because they were named by our voting members. And so what we do is we reach out to the businesses we love and we say you were named by community members as businesses we love, and we take the process from there. We have 14 different categories of businesses we need. So we've taken the suggestions for people over the years, and we just kind of arbitrarily said, let's take the top 14. So when we look at the list of businesses we need, first, I should say the number one need is affordable real estate. So affordable real estate for housing and for commercial. And actually the way that was expressed was community land trust. Mm-hmm. Another need was sit-down restaurants. So when I talk about community land trust, actually we also just announced last week that we just accepted Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative to the Business Alliance, which is nationally renowned in the land trust movement. Not everybody may know about them, but they've been the subject of a couple of documentaries and are leaders in the community land trust movement. And then one of the top businesses that were named as businesses we want to replace was check cashing. And so that's an interesting conversation because that is interesting for us because it prompted us to think about the balance between a business that we understand as predatory, that people also still use. And so we know what we're going to do with businesses we love. We ultimately want to invite them to join our alliance and invest in them. We know what we're going to do with businesses we need, same process. What do you do with the business you want to replace? We can't tell them to leave. We don't necessarily have that type of power. We can maybe protest. But also just thinking about this part where we also do have to be mindful that they do provide a service. Mm-hmm. They just don't provide it in the best way. So a fun conversation has been, for example, well, what would it look like to have ethical check cashing, mm-hmm. For example? So what does a Ujima check cashing look like? But that is, we've not started that yet.
Long-term,
that's pretty
visionary,
far off. Yeah, but it's interesting to think about.
Great. Okay, so you've been mentioning this Good Business Alliance, and you started talking about the Bay State Banner. So what is this Good Business Alliance? So you went out to them, you say, hey, Bay State Banner, come join the Ujima Good Business Alliance. What is it, and why would they say yes?
Right. If we back up just a little bit, in April 2018, we went through a community standards process. So not only are we asking community members to think about businesses that they would like us to invest in, we've also asked and continue to ask community members to talk to us about what their practices should be. So minimally, we're interested in investing in BIPOC-owned businesses. And we also want them to have some positive social impact. We're not interested in investing in BIPOC-owned businesses that are exploitative, that are interested in expressing supremacist power, for example. So we asked community members, when you think about how businesses should provide their products and their services with our community members and how they should behave, what are some minimum non-negotiable standards, whatever the industry, whatever the size, whatever the tenure. And so through that, we have 36 minimum standards that businesses have to pass to then be invited to join the Alliance. And the Alliance is a network of what we call good businesses because they've passed these screens, they've passed the community screens, and it entitles them to investment and entitles them to other support. So for example, things like, paying at least a minimum wage. So for example, for businesses that are in the restaurant industry, they don't pay a sub-minimum wage. They don't rely on tipped wages, for example. Ensuring that there is no union intimidation happening if workers want to organize. So that's an example of some of the standards that we expect our businesses to adhere to be able to receive investment from Ujima as well as other types of supports. Any
particular standards that have been challenging for businesses?
Yeah. So one that we've gotten a little bit of feedback on is we have a fair scheduling standard. And I should also say some of our standards are sourced. So I talk about our multi-stakeholder initiative. One of the reasons that is important and that works is because we get the best of everyone's expertise. So I mentioned we work with activists, grassroots organizers, and so we're able to source some of the expertise with regards to standards in their industry. So one, for example, is an organization called Rock United, Restaurant Opportunity Center is what I think it stands for. So that's where we got the kind of one fair wage or the no minimum wage standard from. Similarly, from them we got our fair scheduling standard, which essentially says I think you have to kind of provide a minimum of 2 weeks when it comes to workers' schedules. If a worker's schedule has to shift, you give them essentially enough notice if there are any shifts in the schedule. Workers with certain tenure get a certain kind of priority, for example, for extra hours, et cetera. So basically making it such that we have some companies where workers are finding out about their hours at the last minute. So you can imagine that makes childcare difficult. For example, if they want to switch, that's made difficult. Their jobs are endangered. And so we have had a couple of restaurants, for example, one large food business, say it's a little challenging. And so we're not rigid. We ourselves are not experts at everything. And so the way we manage that is to say, okay, let's look at our extended network. Let's do some research. Let's see if this is a real challenge versus an excuse. And if it's a real challenge, then we want to work with you. We'll partner with the business as we're learning ourselves, and we'll come up with a plan over time to help you get there. If it's an excuse, then we'll say, well, from what we understand, it actually is doable. You just don't want to, and it's not the right fit yet. And again, that's not permanent. We can continue to be in a relationship. We can continue to have conversations with each other, but you just won't be invited to join the Alliance at this point in time.
So I actually really appreciate, I think, that approach. It highlights the mutuality, right? It's not like, this is the standard, this is how it's going to be, comply or don't. It's right. Like, this is a journey, this is a conversation.
Right.
So let's turn next to what that will look like with financing.